Okay, then there we go. G'day, how you all going? It is Jai, that Aussie metal guy here with Crank. So tonight, wherever you are in the world, it's absolute pleasure to be catching up with this man, a songwriter whose work has stretched from the sharp, literate call of the Commotions through decades of reinvention, experimentation, acoustic troubadour years, and with a brand new run of Australian shows this March. He's bringing the Telecaster back out and reframing the entire catalogue from Rattlesnakes through to On Pain. I'm very honoured to welcome Lloyd Cole. Lloyd, thank you so much for joining me, my friend.
You're welcome. Thanks for having me.
Absolute bloody pleasure, mate. What a career. Over 17 albums, 12 solo albums. You have an amazing body of work. But I'm going to throw in a question, man. What was the earliest musical memory for Lloyd? What first sparked your love of music?
I don't know if it sparked my love of music, but my earliest memory in my whole life was sitting on the floor at some friends of my parents' house listening to Can't Buy Me Love.
I love that. Yeah, I love asking people about their earliest musical memory because it just kind of holds so much more than just the song as well.
Yeah, I mean, it's strange that I can't remember anything before that in my life.
Yeah,
So mm,
it's the
it's
same for
probably
same for me and a lot of musicians. I ask that story. It's usually tied to something special in their life and something they kind of hold dear as well. I was reading you said after 25 years of the doing the Folksinger show, you found yourself wanting to do something a little bit different. Hence the electric run of shows you've got coming back again to the electric because your earlier career, your first few albums were with the electric guitar coming back from the solo, jumping out of Commotions.
yeah, and to be honest, I'm not quite sure why it was that when I did do the solo shows, I chose to do it acoustically. I think I just assumed that that made sense. I think I just thought, oh, what Billy Bragg does with the solo electric's a bit weird. I probably can't do that. Um, so yeah, I think I'm close to the end of my career for sure. Certainly a lot closer than I am to the beginning. And I just got this feeling that I didn't particularly want to be remembered with an acoustic guitar around my neck. I just so uh, so yeah, I'm trying something different, and it's a huge leap to be honest. It's you'd think I'd just change it from acoustic to electric when it's solo would be no big deal, but yeah, it's completely different. It's going to be a learning process. Who knows how polished I'll be when I get to the Gov.
You're going to be absolutely fine, mate. So, does this kind of feel like a reinvention or just kind of coming back and reclaiming kind of what you were doing before?
It's a reinvention because when I was playing guitar in the band, I was never playing it just on my own.
Yeah.
So there's nostalgic elements to it. In the band in the '80s, whenever we had songs with acoustic guitar, Neil would play the acoustic, and I would carry on playing the electric. It's kind of funny, even when we were playing Rattlesnakes, which you'd think that's all acoustics on the album. When we played it live, I played electric guitar banging full speed. Um, we were a very different band to the records we made when we played live. So there's that. It's definitely a little bit of something quite nice to come back to some of the songs and play them on the instrument that I did all those years ago. But reinventing the other songs and finding a way to play them is a challenge. It's fun, but it's a big challenge.
Yeah, I want to ask about your quote as well. I got in the presses talking about how in '99 you kind of felt this need to kind of retreat from that mainstream ambivalence, which I kind of get as I'm in my 45 now, dude. Tell me a little bit about that mindset and what it was like for you, kind of coming back and kind of going, just stripping it back a bit with you, the guitar, and just focusing on the songwriter period of your career.
Well, I got to this point where I'd been working with major record companies for 15 years or so.
Yep.
And every time I made a record, they gave me some money to make it, even if I hadn't written it yet. And I got to this point where I thought, this is kind of the wrong way around. Surely they should be giving me some money if I've made a record, not if I haven't made one. And I didn't, even though I don't think I made a lot of terrible records in that way, I just got to not particularly like that way of working. And I found something that the antithesis of that is going out and doing a show, getting paid for your work, and if you do a good job, then you're going to get invited back. So I kind of liked that idea, and it was a point where I really needed to get away from the record industry. So it was convenient, and it also was learning to be a performer as well. When I was in the band, I felt like we didn't really perform. We just went out and recited the stuff that we'd made. Whereas when it's just you on stage, you can't carry it off unless you become a performer.
Oh yeah, for sure. And did that period feel like creatively for you was a very freeing kind of just coming back and not being tied to a band or tied to a label. You could just create music and kind of find that love and that passion again for what you're doing.
It was freeing, but it wasn't freeing in the sort of exciting way that the
Okay.
like the first record that we made
Yep.
was. The first stage, sorry, the first step in the various different stages is usually the most exciting step.
Yeah.
And that step was, it was great to get away, but it wasn't exciting like getting started in a band. It was a year and a half of just kind of living with these songs and going, what exactly do I want to do with these? And so there was, and it wasn't like I had economic freedom to just not work. I had to be out there working.
Yep.
But I was earning money by playing shows, not by making records. And so it was nice to be able to just sit with these songs for a while and think, what do I want to do with them, rather than just go into the studio, take the money, make another album.
Yeah. Exactly.
So I got to the point where I'd kind of quite enjoyed playing the acoustic guitar, because the acoustic guitar was new to me. So novelty is almost always inspiring. And so I just thought, oh, well, I'll make a record which is based around the acoustic guitar instead of the electric. And then we left New York, and I took a space in this multimedia building up here where I live now in Massachusetts. And I just sat in a giant room with a bunch of equipment and thought, what do I want to do? Well, I want to make a record which excites me. What would it sound like if Massive Attack were a folk band?
Yeah, dude.
That's how I got started with it.
Yeah, no, when you take something like Perfect Skin or Lost Weekend and bring it to that solo electric setting, what becomes the spine of the song? How do you kind of arrange it? You're obviously arranging it a little different, yeah?
Some of them are exactly the same as the acoustic arrangements.
Yep,
Songs like Perfect Skin, which is a kind of strummy song, it'll be quite similar on
yep,
electric. And it's quite nice with the electric. There's more dynamic with the electric. You can go up and down more. Yeah, and so the chorus has got a kind of jangly thing going on. That's going to be easier to do on the electric, and it's going to be easier to differentiate it to the verse type pattern. But a lot of the time it's trial and error. I
yeah.
mean, one time when I was very early in the acoustic show, I was on stage in Dundee, and they literally wouldn't let me leave the stage until I played this song called Forest Fire, which I had never played acoustically before because I didn't think I could. I thought it was one of those songs that just wouldn't work on the acoustic. But they weren't having it, and so I was kind of besieged. So I got up there and I just kind of winged it, and I'm not sure how great it was, but it went down well. And I thought, okay, I think if the song is strong enough, then you can play it in all kinds of different ways, and you can strip away all the production if the song is strong enough. And sometimes you'll try that with another song, and you'll strip everything away, and you go, oh shit, the song's actually not that good, is it? But with songs like Perfect Skin and Forest Fire, they're strong enough. And so it's the song, and it's the vocal delivery, and it's a major aspect of the solo show is the interaction with the audience, because that song means something to them. If they hadn't heard Perfect Skin, if they didn't know that song, and they just see some old dude playing a fast strummy song, which is probably a little bit too young for him to really be playing, their reaction would be very different. I mean, the show that I play for people that know my music is going to be very different to the show that I play for people who don't know my music. When I
Yeah.
play for people who don't know my music, I'm going to be very careful to try and play the very fucking best songs that I think I have.
Yeah.
Whereas for the fans, I don't want to not. I want to give them the songs that they really want, and I want to give them the songs I want to play as well. And when I've got two sets, that's usually enough time to do both.
Yeah, oh, for sure. And like your music is like, it tells such an amazing story. It's timeless. I've had a blast diving into your collection the last week and hearing the way you tell stories through your music. Do you look back at some of your songs as well, and do they feel kind of autobiographical, or do you feel like stories written by a younger version of yourself that you're kind of observing from a distance as well?
Most of them are the distant ones,
Yeah.
but when you look back, you sometimes find that you're looking from a distance at yourself.
Yeah.
Certainly, the ones on Rattlesnakes, I didn't feel like I was writing about myself at all when I was making that record. But a few years later, I looked back and went, "That's me. That's me. That guy's me as well. That's my girlfriend in London. Yeah, okay."
And you have such a way of telling these stories through your songs that you can feel them yourself as the listener, you know. It's like they can be very subjective. The listener can take it on and really go with the song as well. It's written in such a way that, yeah, it's your music, your lyrics written from you and telling this story, but each listener can kind of gravitate to it. I was instantly sold on this, and the latest album on Pain was an absolutely amazing listen as well. It feels like a very synthesis record with some textures, clarity, and kind of reconnecting with some collaborators from the Commotion era. Yeah,
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, and I think to what you said about songs is it doesn't really matter what I think a song might be. It doesn't matter what I think the story might be, because if you don't hear that, you don't hear it, and so it isn't. So every song really has an infinite number of different interpretations, and every one of those interpretations is necessarily correct.
yep,
So and I do these days, I do bear that in mind when I'm writing. I try not to be too didactic. I try not to tell people what to think with the song. I try and put stuff out there and say, and basically hope you enjoy it, and hope make of it whatever you're going to make of it. I'm not going to be pointing you too much. I mean, there's a few songs obviously that there are certain aspects of the songs that it's difficult to see in different ways. But I have the song on Pain called "The Idiot," which I wrote sort of telling the story of Bowie and Iggy going to Berlin in 1977. But when I was promoting the record when it came out, I was talking to this young person, uh, and they didn't know who Bowie or Iggy was. They just liked the song for what it was, and I was just that made me so happy.
yeah, it definitely would. And you've been a singing songwriter, as they say, a folk singer for years. That it's absolutely blown up the last how many years. It's I love folk music, singer songwriter stuff. I kind of cringe sometimes when I call it folk music because it's such a broad range of musicians as well. Must be kind of good to kind of look at the way the scene has grown and evolved to where it is today. There's some amazing artists, even like Behemoth, like Nurgle from Behemoth went over and made some albums as well, singer-songwriter albums that are absolutely amazing. It's a great scene at the moment.
Yeah, I never really particularly liked to have labels. I mean, I called
Yeah,
my show a folk singer show because it was me and two guitars.
yeah.
But I don't consider my music really to be folk music. I just think it's music.
Yeah, I hate genres. It's one thing as a music person who's like, we've got to slap genres on everything. Can't we just listen to music sometimes and enjoy it for what it is without kind of slapping labels on everything? It gets a little cringy at times, eh?
I think it does, and I was lucky to grow up in the when I started listening to music in the late '60s and early '70s in the UK. There were no specialist radio stations. The radio stations all played everything. There was Radio 1 and Radio 2. Radio 2 was for old people. Radio 4 was talking. Radio 1 would have to play T-Rex and also Charles Aznavour,
Yeah.
or or Judy Collins, and Black Sabbath. They were all on the same show,
Yeah.
which I thought was great. And it's when I first came over to America, I was very disappointed by the fact that the radio stations only played their particular genre of music, as if people go, "Oh, well, I only like classic rock." Fuck off.
Yeah.
I really thought that we would get played on the R&B stations when we first started. I thought, because that was the music that we were trying to sound like. I thought, oh well, and the radio guy from the record company just laughed at me because you've got to be kidding. I was like, no, I think you should try and get us on the R&B stations. He goes, no, not a chance.
Wow. Yeah, the labels had a lot of sway back then. I'm going to talk about the Telecaster and the Princeton. It brings up such a deliberate image. Tell me a little bit about that combination with the guitar and the Princeton as well.
Well, when I decided to do the solo electric show, first of all, I thought, it's just me there. I probably look better on stage with like a large semi-hollow guitar. So idiotically, I went out and bought one. And I started working on the songs. I was like, this just doesn't sound right. I don't know why. It just doesn't sound right. So I started getting all my guitars out of the cupboard and trying this and trying that. And nothing was really kind of working for me. My Telecaster was in storage in Glasgow at the time because that's the guitar I use with the band that I play with over there. And William, my son, had a Telecaster in the basement. And I was like, oh, what's that? And he said, can I borrow it? And he said, yeah, sure. So I got this one of his. I was like, that's it. That's the sound. Why didn't I think of that right away? Because the Telecaster was the guitar that I played when we were on stage in the Commotions. And I have all these other guitars, but I play the Telecaster better when I'm standing there. It sits in my arm in a certain way that I feel probably most comfortable, most confident playing the Telecaster. And then the amp is partly convenience. I don't want to be lugging around a giant amp. And then when we were doing the band shows a couple of years ago, Neil, the guitar player, he had two Princetons, a pair of Princetons, and they sounded great. And I just thought, well, I already own one of those in the UK. So I bought one over here. Actually, I went into my local shop and I thought maybe a deluxe would sound better. It's a little bit bigger than the Princeton. But no, the Princeton was better. Great. Bought it. It's just over there in the room. I've been practicing on the new songs with it just before I was speaking to you. And yeah, it's a great combo. Got just a tiny little pedal board to make a few different kind of thickenings to the sounds or thinenings. If I want to do strumming, it needs to sound a little less thick. And if I'm playing general stuff, it needs to sound a little fuller. But that's it. I never had a Princeton myself before. But when we started in the Commotions, we just had amps that we could afford. And then when we had money, I still never really understood how amps worked. And I just bought Fender amps, but I didn't understand amps until I was about 40. Yeah. I just thought, well, so-and-so uses one of those, so it must be cool.
Yeah. So to start diving a little bit deeper as well. And you are bringing two sets to Australia as well, which makes sense. It's going to be an amazing bunch of shows. Are there any tracks kind of you've revisited that you haven't come back to in a long time that have surprised you?
I'm not sure about surprise. Some of them have been easier to figure out on the solo electric. Some have been more difficult.
Yeah.
Some of the things that occurred to me, like there's one song called Cutting Out, which is from that first record after I left the major label. The record's called Music in a Foreign Language. And there's a song called Cutting Out. And I'm working on it over here. And I just thought it's a song written from the point of view of a family that on the other side of the world while the husband is traveling around the world, gallivanting around, either possibly playing music, possibly doing something else, but somebody doing something glamorous while they're stuck at home. And I realized that I probably wrote that when I was in Australia on that first solo troubadour tour in 2001, because that was the catch line at the motif at the end of the verses here on the other side of the world. So that's something that hadn't occurred to me until just now when I'm just going to Australia. I was like, maybe I should try and open the set with that.
Yeah, most definitely. Lloyd, thank you so much for your time and getting to talk about your music. It's been absolutely a pleasure diving into your music. Everybody else, Lloyd Cole does hit Australia Thursday, 17th of March, Melbourne, 19th in Sydney, 22nd Brisbane at the Tivoli, 24th in my home city, Adelaide, the Gov, 27th of March, Perth, 29th of March at Hobart. Everybody grab tickets. Let's sell this out. Lloyd, last words, shout outs, thank yous are all on you, my friend.
Cheers. Thank you very much.